Welcome back to another edition of the Call Up Podcast. I'm your host, Kenny, as always. And today we're going to talk about ring gear. Where do we get them? Do we really need to collect them? And like the people that love to collect them. Today I have Anthony, who is pretty much known in the ring wear community. And he's going to talk to us today about all about ring gear. What's going on, Anthony?
What's going on, man?
Not much, man. Yeah, so me and you connected through one of the ring worn pages on Facebook, and I found it really interesting as far as like this hobby is concerned because I've been collecting different things wrestling wise, and I just got into ring gear, and I remember I sat down with you and we talked, and I said, this is something that I definitely want to dabble into more on the show just to get like more people aware of like how can they get these things and like what's the process as far as like getting your hands on this stuff. So how long have you actually been collecting like ring gear?
I've been collecting I've probably been collecting ring worn lucha masks for probably maybe 4 years now, somewhere in that ballpark. And then transition a little bit more to actually ring worn gear. I would say probably maybe 2 years or so, give or take.
Right. So is a lot of this stuff like things that you plan to like resell later, or is it like something that you just have like for like your personal collection where you have like a display?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. For me, for now, the focus is kind of on the personal collection. On the back of my mind, I'm also aware of it as a potential investment. But for the most part, I'm just thinking about like, who are some talent that either up and coming, that I would want to support, invest in. And investing from just like from a fan standpoint, not so much like a dollar standpoint. And so those are the things I kind of think about. I mean, I don't have the space yet to actually house my collection in a proper way. I do have a lot of other different types of collections. And kind of living in New York, you could only have so much real estate space.
Yeah, and I know that because I live in New York. I'm in Brooklyn, so to like try and keep all that, a lot of the things that I have, I had to put it a lot in storage. I keep a couple of things in the house, but I'm in the process of trying to move. So I just say, you know what, I'm just gonna box everything, which sometimes it hurts because you get something in and you want to show it off so bad.
Yeah.
Kind of like I look at it for a little bit and I'm like, all right, now I gotta put it back inside the box, put it away, and then until later on.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
right.
No, I feel you.
So is there like a process that you go through as far as like picking what you want? Like, do you have like a system in play? Like for me, when I started to collect, like ring gear, I focus mostly on like the people that I really like. So like for me, I'm a big New Day fan. So, when I got a chance to like own some of Big E's ring gear, I jumped on the opportunity because it's something that I really wanted. And, since then people thrown different ring gear at me and I'm like, oh no, I'm not really interested because it's just something that I just kind of look at it like, if I buy it, I might just resell it later.
Yeah, no. And I think that's actually a really good starting point with any type of collection. Like, I think, if you focus it primarily from a kind of a monetary standpoint, trying to get some type of funds and resell, I think, it becomes frustrating, stressful. I think it's really good to kind of start at it from a standpoint of like, I really dig this wrestler. Either, they've been established and, you want to support them, or they're someone that's kind of new, keeping the mindset of like maybe having their gear early on. That's usually how I've kind of approached, what I want to add to my collection. Now, of course, budget is always, you want to budget yourself. I also think about certain themes, like what are certain, is there a certain time period of those wrestlers that I want to kind of focus on? Is there a certain company that I want to kind of focus on? So those are things as well that I kind of keep in mind. I mean, I know, there's certain talent that I would love to have something, in my collection, but I mean, I just don't have maybe the exact budget from like a really like legendary top name. Also, I think, I've been focusing a lot about more kind of current talent, because you can kind of get a sense that, you could actually see the match that they wore it in, right? So it's easier to kind of trace back a bit, and kind of watch, where they've, kind of used this and what different types of matches, and things to that nature. So all of that's kind of usually things that I think about, as I've kind of build out my collection.
Yeah, because I do notice that I see a lot of that stuff like on eBay, where people will say like, oh, this was ring worn by, AJ Styles, and they can give like a brief description of it, but like they don't actually like show you where they may have, worn it. So now you're kind of sitting there doing the research yourself, and then you're sitting there trying to like figure it out. Like, okay, they said it was back in like, 2015, and then you kind of like, they say, but where was it? Like Raw, SmackDown, and then especially if they were worn in the Indies, that makes it a little bit more harder, because now you really have to sit there and like dig deep in these things. So like when you get a lot of your ring gear, do you normally get it directly like from the talent itself, or is it like a third party, or just both?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. I personally, I always get my my gear directly from the wrestlers themselves. I haven't purchased anything really kind of third party, but I don't want to knock out like third party vendors, because they're definitely, there's some out there. I haven't gone the eBay route, but there's definitely, I mean, there's some on eBay, there's some through Facebook groups, there's some through Instagram. But then you got to do that even more added research, like, how did, things that you want to ask yourself is like, how was the item acquired? You want to ask yourself, where was it worn? Is there any type of documentation? Can you go back? And like you said, if it was worn on the Indies, it might be hard to actually find, where it was worn. Sometimes you just do like a Google image search, see if you can kind of pinpoint YouTube videos. Luckily, a good amount of stuff has been kind of documented and shared on YouTube. So you might have some luck, depending if it's a big name talent. But I personally like to go the route of connecting directly to the wrestler, whether, I'm able to reach out to them through social media, if they have their email on social media. I try to get in contact with them directly, and kind of just build out my collection, through them directly.
So how hard is it to like actually like get a hold of them? Because this, because I mean, a lot of the talent now, they have Instagram, they have Facebook, they have Twitter. And I know with Twitter, like sometimes you can send them a direct message, and then there's other times where you're kind of just like, hoping that they'll look at, look at a message, like a DM message on Instagram. So like, what exactly is like the process that you actually go through to like get a hold of these talents?
Yeah, no, that's interesting. There's a couple different routes. Usually there's sometimes the talent actually would put on their social media, hey, I have this item, that I'm selling, I've used it at these organizations, and boom. So that's kind of one route. So usually I may do like a search, ring worn gear, and just click like latest to see kind of what's up to date, because sometimes those things do sell fast. If that is a route I don't go, I will message them, and I put maybe like, I might message them directly through Instagram. If they do have their email contact, I might email them. Just put like ring gear inquiry in the subject line. Just let them know like, hey, I've been a fan for this long. I collect stuff, and for me, I always try to make a point to showcase that I actually, with my collection, it's about showcasing. So I might not technically have the space, where I live to have everything on display, but, I try to digitally curate what I have and share that with a broader audience through my Instagram, through this Facebook group I started pretty much in the beginning of the pandemic, where we have almost, I think now, about 400, ring gear collectors in this Facebook group. And so, I'll point out things like that because I think they appreciate that. I think, they would like to see their item go to a collector, an individual who, appreciates them, an individual who, follows their work, supports them early on in their career. I think that's always a big plus. But there's definitely been moments where, like, I'll message someone and I wouldn't hear from them, for months. Or, they may say like, oh yeah, let me look, and I'll get back to you. There's been times where things have just kind of fell through. I've gotten to certain points where, like, we've agreed on, like, okay, this is the item, maybe this is the price, boom, and then, like, you just, for some reason, you don't hear from them. That's just the nature of it, so it's tough. But I also, like, I don't try to kind of ping too much. You don't want to come off as like, hey, hey, every day trying to message somebody.
Right.
But a few pings here and there, like 2 or 3, whatever. Give it some time. Just like, oh, I just want to follow up. If nothing happens, then boom, whatever. You move on.
I know. Yeah. I know, like, for me, like, when I started to collect a lot of this stuff, I remember I was dealing with one talent, and at the time when I messaged them, I said, hey, if you ever sell this ring gear that you're wearing here, like, I would really like to purchase it and just, give me a price. And, he left me a message. He said, I still need to use the gear that you're asking for. And I said, okay. So then, he's like, but if I'm going to sell it, I'm going to sell it for like X amount of money. So I said, all right, we worked. The number was right. And I said, we'll follow up. So he says, hit me back. I think when I did this probably was sometime in November, December. So he says, hit me back in the middle then. So I hit him back, and we worked out a deal. He sent me the stuff, which I was, very grateful for. And then the other half of the item, which when you said a lot of stuff just falls through, was something that actually happened to me where we was like, I said, all right, I'm going to get this jacket from you. And then it so happened that he went to, they have a lot of these virtual signings now.
Yeah.
So one of the people there was just like, hey, do you have any ring gear that you probably want to sell? And he looked, and the guy was just like, hey, do you have your jacket? And him not thinking that, because he forgot that me and him was supposed to work out this deal for the jacket, he goes and says, oh yeah, I have it right here. Sells it. And when I looked at the video, I said, I sent him a message, and I was just like, I just saw the virtual signing. And he goes, I was waiting for your text message because I knew I messed up. And I was like,
oh, man.
He was like, I'm so sorry. He's like, Ed, I just truly forgot at the time that me and you was going to work out a deal. And I mean, he's a really cool guy. I message him all the time about different things. And he just said, listen, I'll make it up to you, some other time, with something else. And I was like, all right, cool, whatever. But yeah, I mean, with deals falling through, it just happens. But just like, sending messages to other people, I've sent messages to like countless people, and it just falls on dead ears. And that's why I just look like the Facebook group you started. Like sometimes when I go on there, I just look at a lot of the posts, and I just like, how do these people get these things? And it was great that me and you connected, because you can like, shed some light as to like, for somebody who's like new, like myself, and somebody who like doesn't know anything about this at all, like how to get into it, or maybe they're thinking about it and they're like, is this something that I really want to dabble into? It's good for them to know these things, especially maybe they could visit your Facebook group, because I think I was a member for maybe like 2 months before I even decided to like actually buy something and say, okay, like, let me get into it. And I've seen, people like JB Toys who, he has like, thousands or hundreds of different ring gear stuff. And I've spoken to him, but it was like kind of brief. It wasn't like a full detail, like the way you're telling me. I know he does a lot more of like business transactions with a lot of them. So that's how he gets his stuff. And it's just like, okay, cool. But to hear it from somebody else who like says like, oh, I'm not making, titles for them or making like an action figure or whatever it is that they try to do at the time. And you're just legitimately like, hey, I'm emailing these people. I'm, they're reaching out to me. I'm reaching out to them. We're working out a deal. And this is how I get my stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and yeah, so that's actually, you brought up some, interesting points. I would say the other routes, one can go. I think the interesting thing is, with the pandemic, there's of course been a lot of, crazy stuff going on, a lot of challenges. I think within the wrestling community, this concept of this virtual signing, I see that, actually continuing, as even if things start to normalize, and we're going back to conventions and we're going back to, in-person signings, I think there's certain talent that, could easily hop on a virtual signing. Maybe they can't travel for whatever reason. So it gives them a platform, to connect with people who maybe want an 8x10 sign, but, they may have some ring gear. And that's actually, I've acquired an item or two here or there through that way. So that's something I definitely see. Another way that I've seen people go, you can actually, I know some people like to connect to, like, maybe there's the family of this individual, maybe they're no longer with us. That takes some research in terms of like how to, establish those contacts. But I know some collectors do go potentially that route. But yeah, no, it's really interesting to think about like all the different ways, even like designers, like there are certain designers of gear that for some reason maybe have some of that gear with them. And I know people potentially have gone that route. I think honestly, like the best, thing to do is like see if you can go through the wrestler themselves. I think it becomes a little bit of an easier process.
Yeah, that's true. Because I've seen before where I've actually like reached out to other people who made the gear for the talent and asked them like, how can I, get a hold of this person? And some of them, I get, I understand that they want to keep that relationship with that particular client, like, private and stuff like that. Yeah. So they're not going to try and like give that information. And it's just others that, they'll just literally just blow you off and just say like, no. Yeah, they wouldn't even give you an explanation. It's just like, no, that's okay. So like, what are some talent that you've actually like spoken to and actually like have some of their gear?
Yeah. No, so I have, humbly, I have somewhere like around maybe 40 or so items. Some talent that I've spoken to, let's see, Mercedes Martinez, Eva Lise, Super Crazy, Kaval, Low-Key, Bronson Reed, A-Kid, Ricky Starks, Alex Zane, Little Guido, Jordan Grace, Santos Escobar. I've contacted them directly, and they've been, really awesome throughout that whole process. I've had maybe like one or two challenging processes where it's like, it's taken, a while for the item to get mailed. And granted, their lifestyle is crazy. If you take a look at their schedule, they're constantly on the road, so they're barely home. So, that what adds to the challenge as well. But for the most part, almost everyone that I've interacted with have been super, super, super nice about the whole process.
Right. Yeah, I thought that it would be like, like a challenge, because I remember I reached out to Josh Alexander from the North. And this is like when the North was, they were already done being a tag team. And I came to him and I said, hey, do you have any ring gear? And he sends me a picture and he's just like, this is everything that I have that I'm selling. Yeah. So I looked at it and I seen one and I was like, yeah, I want that one. So we worked out a deal. And then he says, I'm going to mail it out. I said, all right, cool. So I didn't hear from him for like a good while. I sent him the money. It was maybe like 2 weeks. I didn't hear anything. Again, no tracking, no hey.
Yeah.
All he sent me was a picture of him signing it. So I said, okay, cool. He's going to mail it off soon. I waited for a while to like get like maybe like a tracking number. I didn't get anything, right? It kind of freaked me out for a little bit.
Yeah.
So then I messaged him and I said, hey, do you have a tracking for this gear? He goes, no. And I go, oh man. When I finally got it, he was just like, hey, if something happens where you don't get it within another week or so, let me know. I'll send you another gear, and then I'll send you the tracking with it. He's like, but normally, everybody gets the gear that I send them. I was just like, oh, okay, cool. And then just one day, I had like get a knock at the door, and it was like the DHS guy was like, here you go. And I was like, oh, okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
No, I've had like where I've waited a long time for a couple different people, because I've gotten a couple like international, a lot of like kind of a couple guys from NXT UK, and so like that's a wait. You wait. It gets sent. Some of that even gets sent with tracking, and sometimes that tracking is like it's tracking from like the carrier overseas, but sometimes once it gets to the postal service, it's up in the air sometimes.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, for the most part, I think it's always good. Like, so then like as a good tip is like to ask, I think it's a good thing that you brought that up to see like, hey, when you make that transaction, would it be cool if you send, just provide the tracking update? That just makes communication, a lot of that, if you can kind of square off from the beginning, I think that just makes the whole entire process smooth.
Right. So with this here, like I told you before, there's we'll do this by video and audio. So do you have any of the gear with you that you want to showcase?
Yeah. So I have a couple of things. Hopefully, and I could definitely showcase that. Some of this is like kind of the earlier items I got. This is kind of like I wanted to like focus on ECW.
Mm-hmm.
And the tough part is like when you have a theme in mind is like reaching out to those guys. They might not have any. Some of the guys is just like that's stuff that like, oh man, I threw away. And you didn't think anybody really would collect it or use it. But
right.
I try to focus like, all right, that's a guy maybe who wrestled in ECW. If he has anything that he's used, maybe not in ECW or outside of it, whatever, I'm pretty open. So the first two pieces, I have this a sweater used by Little Guido, used for a house show. Everything I try to have them sign and actually put ring worn. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of an old school ECW
nice
sweater. Maybe hard to see the signatures, a little bit faint, but it's towards the bottom. I have over here used by Super Crazy. And a lot of them I have, what you mentioned, I think is really cool. Doesn't always happen, but once you make that transaction, definitely point out ahead of time, like if the person could sign it and maybe document themselves signing it. Mm-hmm. I think it's just cool to have. And I usually include that. When I showcase the items, I try to include that image. Here's a piece from Super Crazy he wore in Japan for Noah. And he actually put the exact date of when he wore it.
Oh, nice.
So this is a real cool piece. One of my faves from ECW. Transitioning a little bit towards, here's a lucha mask that I'm not 100% sure if it was worn during matches, but I know he wore it during interviews. This is Dragon Lee's mask, really, really nice material.
Yeah, I love the detail.
Yeah, and that's what really, I think, I love all types of wrestling, international, everything. So I try to watch as much as I can. So I really love the international flavor. And with Dragon Lee, I met him at a few ROH shows when he was brought on, like even before he was signed. So he just kind of signed this and put there. So this is a dope mask that I have of his.
That's dope.
I have Juventud Guerrero. This is kind of what he used in AAA. And he had a couple different items. It's made out. I try not to have the item made out to me, even though he put my name on it, but he signed it, ring worn. So this is kind of an interesting set.
It kind of reminds me of Bret Hart's pants.
Yeah. And it's, what's crazy is like, think about it. This is actually a very heavy material. So there's like a story behind all these different things, which is kind of dope. And it's just really cool to kind of see the patterns and, what they actually wrestle with. I have some gear from Santos Escobar from NXT, but this is when he was Hijo del Fantasma in AAA. So this is some gear he wore, some trunks, very dope. I really like I try to find, because a lot of wrestlers tend to just wear black, like basic stuff. So I try to find something with like a little bit of a design, a little bit of color to it. This is one set of the knee pads, and it's just kind of signed there, ring worn. Here I have a cool piece. This is one of my earlier items I got, and then she actually plugged me on her social media. This is from Ivelisse. I actually have a couple of other items from her, but this is, if you watch Lucha Underground, you actually will see her wear this a lot, this piece. And so then it's signed on the inside. It's signed Ivelisse. And she signed this like really big, like kind of, not even 8x10, but something bigger, just like, thanking me and letting me know, like, you now have this piece from Lucha Underground. So this is kind of a really cool piece. I really dig her. I'm Puerto Rican, so I also support, my fellow Puerto Rican athletes. I have from Chris Bay, big talent on Impact. This is actually the first set of tights he wore on his debut for Impact. And he has a mention right there. Ring worn, Impact debut, and then Chris Bay. So I think
he's been killing it on Impact. I'm definitely becoming a big fan of his.
Yeah, no, he's been like, and I think with Impact like this, they do have a solid roster, and I think they have a lot of fresh names. I think that they continue focusing on that. They have a very strong women's division. I think that'll be, a big thing for them. A couple more items to showcase. I have also, this one I was like, I really wanted to also like maybe have like an NYC based theme, like wrestlers from New York. So I reached out to Low Key, and I was trying to potentially get some like any gear he wore for Ring of Honor, because I wanted to really build out some like early Ring of Honor stuff. But he had this set. And this is what he wore when he was Caval. So he wore this for WWE.
Oh, nice.
He signed it over here. Put the year. What does it say? Despite all odds, New York City. And I have the trunks or the tights to kind of go with this set as well. This is a really, really cool piece. A couple others. This is from A-Kid from NXT UK. This is, he wore, I know he went against Brian Kendrick. He wore this in a few matches like early on, or not too long ago actually. And then he kind of signed it on the inside. Ring worn, A-Kid.
Nice. And then with this one here, you reached out to him directly through like Instagram or like Twitter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that one I know that one I had emailed and Instagram. And I think it was, he messaged me back through email, and then we continued the conversation through Instagram and just stayed in contact. Yeah.
Nice.
Alex Zane, I don't know if you're familiar with Alex Zane. He wrestled a lot. He wrestled in PWG, and GCW is kind of where he made like a really big name for himself. He just got signed to WWE not too long ago. He hasn't debuted just yet.
Right.
But this is the last, pretty much what he wore for his very last indie match before he got signed.
Nice.
So this is a really dope piece. And then, you can really tell that like a lot of this stuff has been used. It kind of has a little bit of tear over there, but it has a little bit of character on it, right? And I think that's pretty cool. Because sometimes, there's certain things that are more just like replicas, like replica gear that are signed. Like this, you can really tell they've been ring worn. And that particular item came with these sets of belts that it usually wraps around as tights, and all of them are signed by him, and this the date and ring worn. Two more things I'll show off. One, actually, all these things I have documented and showcased on my Instagram. This one in particular is not up yet, but it'll probably be up relatively soon, maybe within the next week or two. This is from Bronson Reed. This is pretty much what he wore like early on in his debut in NXT. And I know what he used for like some promo images for WWE. Right. Really, really cool dude. He signed it, ring worn WWE, and then threw his signature there.
I remember you was telling me about that, and I was just like, man, how did you get a hold of Bronson Reed? Because like
luck. I think some of it is pure luck. Because there's certain like talent that like I'll message, and just an opportunity where they actually had something that they're looking to part with. And I've had the opposite situation where like I've tried to reach someone and like for the life of me can't get a hold of them yet. Someone may have just bought something and posted in the group. I'm like, how did you? It just sometimes it's
that happens to me. Like when I decided I wanted to like really get into this, I was like, like I told you, I want to focus on people that I really like enjoy their work.
Yeah.
So one guy I was trying to get a hold of was Johnny Gargano.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm like, I messaged him on Instagram. I messaged him on Twitter because like I won a contest that he was doing, so he had messaged me on Twitter. So then I was like, okay, well that's still open from his Twitter handle. So I sent him messages, but like he just never read it. So I was like, all right, it just falls on deaf ears at this point. So
yeah, no, and that's another one that I would love to have added something. And I think about like I've met a lot of these guys in New York, through conventions, through wrestling events, and like I probably was collecting a lot earlier. I could have probably contacted them, directly right then and there.
Yeah, that's what I think about because before the pandemic, they had Evolve.
Yeah,
so
I know.
So with Evolve, like every time they would come to New York, it would either be Tommaso Ciampa or Johnny Gargano, Matt Riddle that will come by and do these autograph signings. And before, at the time, I wasn't collecting ring gear. I was just doing strictly like, action figures. So then I would just, I would just, get the figures signed from them, take a picture, have a conversation. And now with the whole pandemic and me collecting ring gear, I'm like, damn. Like, I really wish I would have did it back then because I would have had 2 or 3 pieces by now.
Yeah, and especially I think with like Evolve is like that was before like all those guys got signed, right? So that was like a pretty big wave of talent. Like Drew McIntyre was still, doing some Evolve shows. Keith Lee, all these guys were, working, that promotion. Roderick Strong, Zack Sabre Jr., who I wish I had something of his.
Right.
But we'll see. We'll see when things
hopefully
and shows start to come back. Here's one last piece I have, which is something actually I just posted up not too long ago. It's just Ricky Stark's gear. Really intricate design, super shiny. Cool dude, real cool dude. He signed this. Had this shipped really, really fast. And so this is one of the pieces, he wore right before he got signed. So this is kind of when he was doing some AEW Dark, matches. So that's something cool to me. It's like thinking about that history, like before they kind of blew up, or start to blow up. Kind of having those earlier on pieces.
Yeah. So I'll leave you with this last question. So like, do you have a budget in mind? Like when you go for these things, like, do you say to yourself, like what exactly is like your cutoff? Because I know I seen recently, like the New Day is selling off their ring gear from for the Royal Rumble from this year. And when I read about it, I was like, I'm gonna jump on it because I obviously I want to get something from like Kofi and Xavier Woods.
Yeah.
And then they threw the Kofi jacket up there, and I think the highest I went up to, which was my limit, was $1,000. I said, I'm only gonna go 1,000, and that'll be it. And then it went up to $4,000. I was like, yeah, I'm not going, going that high. My wife would kill me. But
yeah, no, same here, 100%. Yeah, I think some of it would be dependent on the talent. It would really, I do have a set budget. So like usually what I'm keeping in mind is like, okay, this is kind of the ballpark what I would like to pay for. And I'm also open, like if it's something from a wrestler, maybe not from a huge event, from a pay-per-view or whatever, but maybe it's something that from these types of matches with these individuals, I'm kind of cool with that. It fluctuates with me, to be honest. It really depends on the individual, what they have available, kind of what they're looking for. So I do have a certain range. I probably like you, past that 1,000 probably would be my definite like cutoff, point, right now. As things progress,
right.
Maybe I want to cut back on what I have, maybe resell and then use that to invest and get some like really, I think, fine-tuned pieces. But for now, like I'm pretty, I'm cool with what I have,
okay.
Cool with just sharing it as well.
Right. Yeah. Man, well, thank you. This is a really interesting conversation as far as like, hopefully, this will get some more from people like more informed as to like what they need to do in order to get this gear or if they want to get into this hobby itself. So if they want to see some more pieces from you, like, plug in your Instagram so they can see more of the things that you have.
Yeah, definitely. No, and thanks for having me, man. Like I've been following, your videos, really, really cool stuff. So I definitely highly recommend for everyone watching, follow my man, subscribe on YouTube, get the alerts. There's some dope videos out there. He's done some really cool interviews and more to come. Yeah, if you want to check out my pieces that I have in my collection on my Instagram, it's at ringworn, all one word, _ memorabilia. So ringworn _ memorabilia. And then there you can find a direct link to the Facebook group of Wrestling Ring Gear Collectors. Again, we have about 400 members right now. It's a really cool space. If you're looking to kind of maybe you just want to see things and see what people have so far, it's a cool space to be in. And if you want to learn more, that's definitely, there's a lot of really top collectors that have some really sick stuff, and we're always open to share.
Cool, man. Well, thank you once again. And, hopefully, we'll see some more. Hopefully, my collection will grow a little bit more. All right. Thanks.
All right, brother. Take care.
All right.